I need to turn this down a little bit. Yeah, I think that's better. Uh, that thing was too loud, man. All right, I want to sincerely thank everybody for tuning in. This is Jamil Salib Zamir out of Manning, South Carolina. I didn't get to plug in my other computer television screen, my monitor, and I'm not going to plug it in now. But I am going to start the broadcast. I want to thank everyone for tuning in. I don't even know what time it is. To anyone that is on Instagram, thank you all for tuning in. I hope you can hear me through my headphones. I'm trying something a little different. But I'm broadcasting live on Instagram. I'm broadcasting live on Jamil Salib Zamir on Facebook, as well as the Music Man on Facebook and on the 19 Report on Facebook. We're also broadcasting. Yeah, I can hear myself in the phone. We're also broadcasting live on Linked, and we're broadcasting live on YouTube. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different channels. We were once on X, but they kind of got a little too picky on X, so I stopped with that. But I think we're doing pretty good on the platform. So I want to thank everyone for tuning in. Probably it'll be about 45 minutes to an hour tonight because we're going to take our times with this. We're in the dungeon. We're in our little secret location. It's quiet, and I like it quiet. My granddaughter may pop through the door, say something, or my son may call. And if that's the case, I apologize, but I like to keep an eye on the young ones. Today, we're going to talk about one specific thing, and we're going to come out of biblical text for that. This is about biblical moral standard. And I just want to open up by, as always, saying a prayer in hopes that God will hear the prayer, the vibratory frequency of the prayer, and allow it to be a benefit to those who may need it. Now, I know we're saying prayer. I'm asking God to help us to use this platform to reach the people who are in need of what is being said, to reach the people that He woke me up almost 30 years ago in 1989 to spread a word from Him, to be an example, to live it, and to uh, be an exhibition of it. So I'm asking God to protect us in our travels. I'm asking God to help our children to begin to listen to the elders again. I'm praying that this difficult era, and please forgive me for not closing my eyes, but we're trained to never close your eyes when you're alone. Somebody has to have their eyes open. So don't take that personal. You have to have your eyes open to see what's around you. Praying that God will allow the words to reach our youth. And believe it or not, more importantly than that, praying that God will allow the words and the message to reach our elders, mothers and fathers, single mothers who are trying to prove a selfish point that they don't need a man, fathers who are not in their children's lives, and that this era of violence, confusion, lack of communication, lack of moral standards, do as thou wilt, this era of satanic behavior will not be the downfall of us. And that people will understand that the downfall always happens amongst the poor first, because the elite have a way of knowing what's coming and we don't. I'm praying that to Almighty God that the podcasters and the podcasts will be made more clear, more precise and concise, that it will not be a show of self-aggrandizement, of arrogance, of people who are trying to prove that they're the best at something. I'm praying that those who are in a better position than I am will either take their own message and try to reach the people, or accept what God has given to those like me, men and women, who have accepted God's call and accepted His moral standards and agreed to try to do better on a daily basis, to be an example, knowing that this would be a difficult journey. I'm praying that God will bless us and watch over us. And I thank Almighty God for the journey. I thank Him for the peace in the journey, for the difficulty in the journey. I pray that he will guide my words and bring people into my circumference, into my circle, who I can learn from. Just sit at their feet and learn, and then take what they teach and execute it and be an example to the people. I don't pretend to be one who knows everything. I pray that God will increase my vocabulary and help me to remember the things that I've forgotten. We're talking about a very serious subject today, but that was my prayer. My prayer is that we will begin to remove the selfishness of trying to prove how good we are and learn how to work as a collective, because the division is destroying us. And I'm talking about everybody, the entire collective. So we're going to go into this today. I thank everyone for tuning in on Instagram. I'm going to be reading directly out of the biblical text today. I'm not trying to become preachy, but this is what I'm attempting to do by God's permission, and by God's permission and with his help. We need to begin to understand that we've tried everything in our own power. We've tried money, selling drugs. Now we're at the point of thinking we can kill anything that we are offended by, and that's a huge mistake, because the person that you kill, that uh, instantly disrupted energy will only go into another person who will become stronger than you and tougher than you. So all the killers will eventually be killed. And if they're not killed, there will be so many attempts on their lives that they will become paranoid schizophrenics, and they will stay on some type of drug trying to stay calm in situations, always on 10. That's what you're seeing on the internet now. You're seeing a bunch of people who get on podcasts, and they're murderers, they're drug dealers, they're criminals in politics, criminals in business, and they're trying to sell you their idea so that they will be more comfortable in their wickedness. The more people you get to follow you, the more you can convince yourself that the foolishness you're selling is beneficial. So you see all the old pimps, all the old pushers, what are they telling us? How to be a pimp, how to be a pusher, how to be a drug dealer, how to survive in jail, how to go into the bullpen, and how to survive gladiator school. But who's telling the young people God has already put you on a path? All you have to do is follow it. So this book called Bible is a book of morals, period. You can shout, you can jump up and down, you can sing, you can beat drums. All of those rhythmic things can help you have a little faith to help you make it through tomorrow. And remember that society is built upon groups of people. There are church people who are going to help church people, gang people who are going to help gang people, political people, Democrat, Republicans, and all different facets are going to help each other. But that's not saying that God approves of it. That's saying that you have a group of people who are willing to continue to push their agenda by making it look like only the Christians are blessed. Well, Chinese people are blessed because they got a nation. Muslims are blessed. Hebrews are blessed. Buddhists are blessed. Everybody receives their blessing from God, and everyone must receive a message from a higher source. God does not discriminate. So I want to be like unto God. I don't want to discriminate with class, color, or creed. But where I see, by God's permission, there is a problem and it's not being addressed correctly, I want to address it. I don't expect a lot of people to come on board with me because it's new. And the truth of the matter is, we are afraid of being different. That's why everyone chooses Christianity, because it's the normal. Or everyone chooses now to be homosexual in one form or another because the people who fought for it, you can't fight like that. Most of you who claim Christian, you're not going to fight like Christ fought. You're not going to turn away from your wealth and your flashiness and your notoriety to live like Christ lived. You're not going to do that. So we have to build up a biblical moral standard, because the Bible is a book of morals, and it tells you what happens when people rejects the morals. So we're going to talk about that today. I'm going to go into biblical text. We're in Isaiah 3. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to read a little bit. We're going to go from Isaiah 3, 1 through, and it's not going to take long, 1 through 26. And we're going to stop a minute and talk about certain things, but this is where we are. And unfortunately, this is not where people who have the ability to attract huge crowds, people who have the ability to attract a lot of people aren't talking about this. And that will be the eventual downfall of the people. So before I get started, well, I'll say that at the end. Let's go into Isaiah 3. And I'm going to read it verbatim, and then we're going to talk about it a little bit, about certain words. For behold, the Lord of hosts does take away from Jerusalem and from Judah the stay and the staff. Now, I want to get into that stay and staff first. It's derived from two distinctive forms. From one derivation, it has the meaning to stand, and so to continue in one place. That's Genesis 8:10, Leviticus 13:23 and 28. Forbear, to act, to rest, to be trustful. So to stand means to what people call now 10 toes down. But 10 toes down now is not a 10 toes down moral standard. It's a 10 toes down selfish standard that says I'll stand up for what I selfishly believe, but I won't stand up for God's moral code. So, for behold, the Lord of hosts does take away from Jerusalem, from Judah, the stay and the staff of bread and whole stay of water. The stay is more of a masculine thing, and the staff is more of a feminine thing. So you hear in biblical text where it says, thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. A man needs to be a man, and a man needs to understand manhood, but Satan has misdirected us into thinking that manhood is murder, manhood is having a bunch of women, manhood is having a bunch of babies that we don't take care of, manhood is being able to fight, manhood is being fearless. Satan has us thinking that way. But in truth, manhood is being able to submit to something bigger than yourself, humbling yourself and comprehending that there is something bigger than you that you must be willing to give your life for once you find your purpose. So Christ found his purpose and was willing to give his life for it. Who else is willing to give their life for their purpose? Who else is willing to give their life so to see to it that people receive the proper message that God is trying to send? Not very many people. You listen to a lot of podcasters now, they just God this, God that, God all the time, based upon what they have, based upon what they believe, and based upon their comfort zone. But they never talk about the things that they are not doing, not comfortable with, are guilty of. They're not going to talk about those things. They're only going to talk about the things that make them look like they are godly. They're not going to talk about the lack of parenting skills, the lack of comprehension, the lack of being able to articulate themselves to reach the people. None of that. Just say nice things so everybody will invite you to their events. And the Bible talks about this in Thessalonians, about the people saying, don't tell us God's truth. Don't prophesy to us. Tell us nice things. Prophesy unto us deceit. So people who prophesy deceit are the popular people. The people who come around and tell you you're perfect. That's a lie. The scripture says, be ye perfect, but we are not perfect. We're making an attempt at perfection. But to dangerously tell these young people who have no connection to God at all, that they are perfect without a guide into perfection, the blood of those children will be on your hands. But it looks so good now. It looks as if though what is being said is making a big difference. But what is being said is confirmation to the children that they don't have to change. So when you talk about the stay, you're talking about the manhood. And God is taking away the manhood from the so-called men. But what the men are doing is they're perpetrating a fraud about manhood. They're pretending to understand what they don't, because most of us grew up in homes without a man. And if someone was there, the man was working and providing, but he was not a God counselor. So then it goes on to say in Isaiah that for behold, the Lord of the Lord, the Lord of hosts does take away from Jerusalem and from Judah the stay and the staff. What is the staff? It talks about my rod and my staff that comfort me. The woman is the backbone of the man. She is the second self of God. She is in her right positioning, in her proper understanding of her position, and in her proper understanding of God's will, and in her submission to God's will. She is the staff. But the woman has been taken away because she is no longer accepting the role as the staff. She wants to be the stand. She wants to be the state. So now she wants to usurp the authority of the house and be the man of the house, the state, the rock. Biblical scripture says don't do that. So God says, because we have decided that we want to take on opposite roles, it's like taking the word God, G-O-D, and flipping it around to D-O-G. So instead of God being a man's best friend, the dog is a man's best friend. And we are behaving in doggish ways. So God says that he's going to take away the whole staff of bread and the whole stay of water, the mighty man and the man of war, judge and the prophet and the prudent and the ancient. He says he's going to take away all of that. In 3, the captain of 50 and the honorable man and the counselor and the cunning artificer and the elegant orator, I will give children to be their princesses. So what is happening now? Because our children have no connection to God, and they are quick to pull out a gun, shoot up houses, kill each other, the parents are now afraid of the children. The parents and the people in the community are holding their head down and acting like they don't see anything that's going on in the community. So they are literally genuflecting and bowing down to the children whose answer to every problem is to kill it, and whose answer to every mental issue is to do drugs. So God said in Isaiah, he's going to make this a reality. He's going to allow this to happen. Now, if all of these people who are preaching God's word were on point, it wouldn't be happening. All of the mothers in the church, if it were on point, it wouldn't be happening. But because they are not on point, we are not on point, God is saying, this is what's going to happen right before your eyes, so that you'll see that we must rethink the way that we are behaving. Then it says, God says, and I will give children to be their princesses. So we're bowing down to the children. Check this out. And babies shall rule over them. Now the system is set up to where you can't discipline your child, to where parents who are not taking the advice from the elders are now allowing their children to conduct the business of the house by rather they cry or rather they be quiet. We give them what they want. We don't teach them. We don't discipline them. We don't do anything. So the children shall behave, it said, and the people shall be oppressed and I will give children to be the princesses, and babies shall rule over them. This is where we are. This is the God's honest truth. I don't care what person is talking, myself or anyone else. The only reason God said that he will allow this is because that we disobeyed his will. But now we take the things that we're good at and we present that to the people as God's will. So you can't have a lot of sex, so you stay with your wife. Your idea of God's will is one woman. Because you're not tempted by that, you can't be. One thing about Christ is that he was healthy when he was tempted by Satan. Most of us aren't tempted by wealthy things. We don't have no money. Most of us aren't tempted by certain things. We're not in the world to be tempted. So we think because we make ourselves reclusive that we are blessed by God. And a hermit or a person who is reclusive is not necessarily blessed by God because you're not being tested. If we are of God and if we are of Christ, then we must be tested by the world. All of the impediments of the world must be our trial. Women, money, drugs, power, positions, all of that, fear, all of that. But we are holding our head down and bowing to our ignorant children who are nothing but impulsive, most of them, even the educated ones. They may get the education because that's what they want, not because of anything you did necessarily. That's what they wanted. But what else comes along with that? So we're being tested. Christ proved that he would take the test to his death. But how many of us are doing that? Isaiah 4, and I will give children to be their princesses, and babies shall rule over them. And the people shall be oppressed, everyone by another. This is the world we live in, all oppressed. This is predicted in the book, but people are not digging deep in the book. They're only looking for the lines that apply to who they are right now. But to be alive means to learn until you die. The learning process is forever until you are no longer here. And even after your life, someone is learning from your life. That's why gang members make these big podcasts talking about dead gang members, calling them demons, and making documentaries that get millions of views. They're using their life to continue on the debauchery, the violence. So this book called Bible is a moral book. There is a moral standard, a moral code that goes along with people who accept the book. Now you have Muslims or people calling themselves Muslims who are straight gang members. Gang is their life, but they say, I'm a Muslim. Christians who are straight prostitutes and criminals, I'm a Christian. So we have accepted what we say, we accepted the book, but we have not changed our behavior. So those who accept and do not change are the biggest sinners. They look good now because we're in a world where Satan produces sinners. Satan's capabilities are similar to God's because he stood right next to God. And until God stops Satan's play, he will continue to do so. So there's a lot of power in devilishment. There's a lot of power in satanic activity until God stops it. 4, and I will give children to be their princesses, and babies shall rule over them, and the people shall be oppressed, everyone by another, and everyone by his neighbor. The child shall behave himself proudly against the ancients. What are the children saying? They don't have no big homies. They don't have no OGs. They don't have none of that. They don't have no wisdom, no guides. They don't need it. So they're behaving proudly against the ancients, against the elders. This is predicted in the book. The Bible is a now book. Be careful of those people who use it as a past book and who present themselves to you like because they're talking about God, all of a sudden they're godly. They made a decision to stop drinking, stop smoking, stop doing drugs, and God helped that situation. So now they think that they're in a position to tell you how God works when they know good and well, they know it in their heart of hearts, that they are not qualified to do that. So you have people who are church members, the minute they get into the church, the minute they have a revelation, they say, God called you to preach. How can that be so? When you don't understand the mechanics of biblical and moral standards. Community, home, mind, all of these things must be corrected before we can say that we are of God or with God. Otherwise, we're pushing our own agenda. We're in Isaiah, powerful Isaiah 3, the whole thing. So we're going to try to walk through this. It says, we're in 5, and it says, and the people shall be oppressed, everyone by another, and everyone by his neighbor. The child shall behave himself proudly against the ancients. The children are not listening to their parents. They think we're crazy. They think we're old heads. They think we don't know anything in our communities now. And it is trickling down to other communities, but the system was set up so that the young would stop listening to the elders. But there are a group of elite people who are sure and make sure that their children follow the guidance of their family lineage. They won't let them deviate from that. They marry a different way, and these are positions of warfare. Marriage is warfare. Who you marry, either they're going to elevate you, as we talked about in the beginning, the state and the staff, or they're going to destroy you. And according to Isaiah 3, it's destroying us. Business is warfare. No one teaches us how to conduct business or give us the knowledge of business. We are introduced to this world system of business, which was constructed on wickedness. All true. So you get people and you vote them into offices, you vote them into positions, and they conduct things wickedly. Where you thought you had someone who was going to be a benefit to whatever you voted them in to do, they get a taste of the wickedness and they accept it. That's why I believe that politicians should only serve at least 3 years or 2 years, and they must be replaced. Because if they serve a long term, they're going to accept the evil, according to Isaiah 5. And the people shall be oppressed, everyone by another, and everyone by his neighbor. The child shall behave proudly against the ancients, and the base against the honorable. Nothing is honored today. Children will cuss out a pastor, they mama. They honor no position of authority. They'll cuss out police. They'll fight anybody. They'll fight their brother. They'll kill their parents. They brag about not listening. I had a situation where I was doing business with a young man, and I watched him lie to his mother and fleece her out of $300 and had no remorse for it. And for those who bow their heads down, as it says in Isaiah, and act as if though you don't see what's happening, and that's what's happening in the society today. You see people posting up on social media, I mind my own business, I keep my head down, and that's why I don't mess with nobody, as if though that's some type of honorable thing to do. If you see something, you say something. There are rules for snitching. If I did a job with you and I get caught, I don't tell. And if I tell, I snitched. But if you're destroying a community and I can do something about it, and I contact the proper authorities or I do something about it, that's not snitching. But we've given up that role according to the scripture. The child shall behave himself proudly against the ancients, and the base against the honorable. So the parents are now genuflecting, bowing down to their children and to people that they are afraid of. Yet we go to church every day and talk about God, but we are afraid of people when we should only fear God. You die one time, and Jesus proved that. He went to his death and proved that. But we genuflect, bow down, and make children the gods over us. We do that. All we got to do as parents is come outside and whip their behind. We'll lose some and they'll lose some. But we will prove to God that we're going to take back what he loaned to us, our children. Let's continue. 6. When a man shall take hold of his brother of the house of his father, saying, thou hast clothing, but thou art ruler, and let this ruin be unto thy hands. Each person begins to blame each other for what's going on in the community because there is no accountability. You know how a parent knows that their child is unruly, have mental issues, they don't take them to get help, They go to school every day, they start trouble. You call the parent up to the school and the parent comes up there raising Cain like you the problem and not their child. Most parents want to get rid of their children, want them out of the house. They will pay for them to move someplace else. I got that going on in my community right now. And they will see to it that them hell raisers stay there and not come back to them because they don't want you over there. So they think the answer is to get them out of the house. The answer is to fix the problem. But the parents are not fixing the problem. They're not taking accountability. What was I doing when I was pregnant? Partying, drinking, acting a fool, having sex, doing all of these things that weren't in agreement to what a mother should be doing while she's pregnant, but we do it. Then we produce this animal and blame everybody for it. The mothers who are on the internet knowing that their child is a stonebound killer. And most of these children are killing people by the time they're 12 years old. This is all true. They're killing people or attempting to kill people at 12, 13, 14, 15. But when their repercussion comes, now the parent is talking about how good of a child they had, lying out of their teeth, lying. There is a mother on the internet right now who came forward and said, I did the best. Her son was murdered. She said, I know he was up to no good. I know he killed people. I tried to help him, but I couldn't. And she's in the mortuary giving him his final haircut, doing all she could, but she is honest. So perhaps that is the end of that cycle. By knowing that I did the best I could, but it wasn't good enough, they didn't listen. But there are young parents who are partying with their children, drinking with their children, having sex with their children's friends, all facts. And will get upset with me for saying it, but the book of Isaiah is talking about what's going to happen, what's going to manifest itself, and it is manifesting itself for real, in real time. Let's go on. We're almost done. Let me see how much time we got. We're 32 minutes in. We're doing great. I said give me 45 minutes to an hour. So we're back in the biblical text. We are in 6. I'm going to go to that again. When a man shall take hold of his brother, of the house of his father, saying, Thou hast clothing, be thou our ruler, and let this ruin be unto thy hands. Jealousy of brother against brother. You see what happens when the matriarch dies, when a parent dies, you see it. The children go after the money. I did the most. I did. You ain't did nothing. You ain't. Disrespect. This is what is happening in our communities. I notice that people are always saying, what's wrong with our children? What's happening? And since 1989, I must have over 400 to 500 commentaries that God spoke to my heart. I did the research on and I presented it. But people ask the question and really don't want to know the answer because they really don't want to be held accountable for it. I've talked about my children, the trials with my children, with jail and drugs and fighting and confusion, my ex-wife and all I went through with that, having to get custody of my children, selling drugs myself, going to jail but being released because the situation was fixed. I talk about all of that. So this is not about me being perfect. And if you would like to read some of my book, you can go to Johnny Wilson on Amazon, and there will be certain chapters that you can read. You don't have to pay for. I have 3 books. I've written 6 books. I have 3 up on Amazon that explains all of this. Now let's go back in. We're on a time. 6, 7. In that day shall he swear, saying, I will not be a healer, for in my house is neither bread nor clothing. Make me not a ruler of my people. In that day, no one will want to take responsibility for healing the people. Nobody wants that. The majority of people in church are not putting forth the effort to heal the people. They're asking God to do it. And God has said and continue to say in scripture, whether you are a Jew, a Muslim or Christian that you do something and I will do something. But we're saying, no, God, I'm scared. You do it. It'll never get done. Because until a man, prayer without works is futile, is useless. So if you are praying to God for change and you are not an active conduit of change, there will be no change. And for those of you who go to sleep and there's a problem and you wake up and there isn't one, someone fought for change. It didn't just happen by osmosis. Someone was brave enough to take on the challenge to change things. This is Bible is not a spooky book. It tells you that people sacrificed their lives to get this truth to us, and we would have to continuously sacrifice to make this truth relevant continuously, because throughout the Bible you see the rise of the people, the fall of the people after sin becomes normal. And we have normalized wickedness, normalized sin. 8, for Jerusalem is ruined, that's us, and Judah is fallen, that's us, because their tongue and their doings are against the Lord to provoke the eyes of his glory. We are against God when we think we are with him, but we're talking God and living in fear of man. Talking God all the time, just shouting boogity 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 all the time, just saying Lord, Lord, but are afraid to get out in the community and do something about the problems. I have been since '89 an active member of community, not only events, but I have a nonprofit organization, the Community of Concerned Citizens. I'm currently running for the school board in Clarendon County, District 9, which will be a part of District 2, the school in District 2. I work with Mom Demanding Actions, Stop the Gun Violence. I work with students demanding action. I work with the Red Cross. I've worked with Camp Bob Cooper. I've worked with the Clemson Exchange. I've worked with Stop the Violence organization in Williamsburg County. We work, man. And I've died and had 3 open heart surgeries. I have a damaged back. I have no feeling in my hand from damage on a job. No feeling in this hand, legally blind in my left eye, but we work. People like myself, Dale Castro Powell, I'm gonna name Dale because we work. I don't know so much what others are doing in the community besides talking, but we worked. In that day, we all gonna try to run away from the responsibility. 8, for Jerusalem is ruined and Judah is fallen, because their tongue and their doings are against the Lord to provoke the eyes of his glory. We're not doing enough for God to say, well done, my good and faithful servant. I don't care how big you build your church. I don't care how many different ministries are in your church. What is happening in the streets of America? And in as much as the least of these understand scripture, what do they have? Who is in the community talking to the young, with the exception of some of these nonprofit organizations who are really about that life? Who else? Who? Well, once I get myself straight, you ain't never going to get yourself straight. I will never be straight. I will be fighting for perfection the rest of my life. So I'm not going to wait on perfection to try. I'm going to step out on faith and ask God to order my steps and guide my words. And he has done that since 1989. And I've been faithful to that, faithful to the young. I've helped young people get their paperwork straight for music. I've helped young people get their paperwork, tax papers and stuff straight to get a business license. I've helped young people to comprehend the charges that were being brought against them. I've helped young people get out of trouble by God's permission. And I continue to minister to them and to myself because I listen more than I talk. On this broadcast, I talk. I'm concerned about where we are. And it may look good, but we're in hell. This is Satan's world. The scripture says it. Let's move on. 9. We are not provoking the eyes of his glory. He's not happy. 9. The shew of their countenance does witness against them, and they declare their sin as Sodom. They hide it not. Every wicked thing we want to do, we justify. Yeah, I'm a shooter. Oh, yeah. I'm gay. I'm gay. See, there are homosexuals that are just homosexuals. There are trans that are just trans. That's how they feel they are. They don't glamorize it and glorify it. I'm friends with a lot of them, and will continue to be friends with them until God say different. Because there's a lot of value in people, no matter their gender or their personal preference. But when we begin to glamorize it and try to justify it, I have someone that's very close to me that's big in this hustle thing. And I disagree with it because I gave it all up and I lost everything that I made from it. But the one thing that I always tell this person is do not try to justify selling drugs. Do not say you're doing it for your kids, because you don't spend all the money on your kids. You throw money in strip clubs. You buy expensive gift cards and all that. What that got to do with your child? You're a liar. So the scripture right here says, woe unto the souls, for they have rewarded evil unto themselves. Say ye to the righteous, that it shall be well with him, be well with him, for they shall eat the fruit of their doings. Woe unto the wicked, it shall be ill with him, for the reward of his hand shall be given him. As for my people, children are their oppressors, and women rule over them. Remember, I talked in the beginning about the stay in the staff, how the women were taking a position of power. And remember how we talked about we have allowed the children to be our oppressors. You spend your whole life building up a house and home and property value, and somebody move next door to you with children who are just disrespectful, gun carrying gang members who will threaten you at any time. They are our oppressors. They are the destruction of the community. I'm being honest with you. Y'all call me Unc. Your uncle gonna be honest with you. I'm not gonna lie to you about my life, and I'm not gonna lie to you about the BS that you all are doing. They built up the Westwood apartments in Manning. The young tore it right back down. And they're comfortable there. And the old just think they're gonna run into their homes and no bullet gonna go through the wall. No weed smell gonna come through the wall, no drugs, no violence, because you don't stand up against it. You just go to church on Sunday and pray about it. I talked to a man one day and I said, man, you don't get tired of all that noise all night? Yeah, but I just pray about it. I said, pray about it? What are you gonna do about it? Well, I just wait on the Lord. Man, the Lord been here. And see, the elders are punking out, is what it is. 43 minutes in, we're punking out. And we are allowing mentally ill children to determine how we live. And these mentally ill children, they have no hope for tomorrow. I won't hang around anyone that has no hope for tomorrow. They'll crash out at any time. Death is nothing to them because life is nothing. Jail is nothing because freedom is nothing. So I ask God to hold the parents accountable for what they know they're doing, and to hold people accountable, politicians, police who aren't doing what they're supposed to do, politicians who aren't doing what they're supposed to do, preachers and pastors, those who have the power to make change. Hold them accountable. Let that wickedness go into their homes. Their children dying, their children on drugs, their children confused with gender, their children causing havoc, their children terrorizing them in the home. So you will get a taste of what you deny and reject. That's fair. As for my people, children are their oppressors, and women rule over them. O my people, they which led thee cause thee to err and destroy the way of the path. Remember, I told you about the people who lead you into error, who lead you into darkness, thinking they're telling you right. You all are perfect. You're not perfect. I'm not perfect. No accountability. And that's how we live. That's why we live so comfortable. Just do whatever you're big and bad enough to do. This Bible talk. And this is the kind of talk we need to repair ourselves, our heart, our connection to God, our families, our homes, our communities. And until we start talking like this and implementing what is necessary to make this a reality, our children are going to rule over us. All they know is guns and killing. And we think that that's something. So I value my life. But I understand that my life is just like their life. You can kill me, but I can kill you too. But what will that gain? They don't care. But those of us who claim to be with God understand how lineage work, how you're supposed to grow with each generation. We're stagnant, if not debilitated. And economists say that by the year 2053, our economic growth as a people will be zero. Let's move on. As for my people, children of their oppressors, 13, that was 12. 13, the Lord standeth up to plead and standeth to judge the people. God is pleading. Isn't that something? A parent plead with their children to do right. Please do right. Please do right. God, who controls everything, is pleading with us. Before I kill you, do right. But in the process of wiping you out, I'm taking your children away. I'm taking your growth. I'm taking your mind. I'm taking your ability to function. I'm retarding you because you refuse to do right. You refuse to pick up the full armor of God and fight. You don't want to fight. You just want to pray and make money and look like you're fighting and put money in places, but you don't want to fight. But everyone has to be tried individually. You can't escape it. And if you do escape it by chance, it will be left onto your children. So not only are they fighting their fight, they're fighting your fight. I'm fighting my grandparents' fight, my mom, my dad, my brother, my sister. I'm fighting their fight because they're no longer here. That's a lot to carry on top of my own. Many of us are doing that, and we're depressed. We see no opening for tomorrow. We see no hope. 15. We're almost done. 14. The Lord will enter into judgment with the ancients of his people and the princesses thereof. For ye have eaten up the vineyard, means that, like I said, with Westwood, and you move in a nice neighborhood and bring the value down. Everything of value our children bring down. Not only the children, but the elders who act like children. And there are a lot of old women in their 50s and 60s who are teaching these young boys how to sell drugs, giving up their bodies to these young boys, providing them with guns, going to the gun shop and buying guns for them to have. I'll tell you what I know. It's a big problem. And while they're doing all of that, they're smiling in your face and talking about how we got to do better by the children. They're part of the problem. I know what I'm talking about. So God is saying that he will enter into judgment with the ancients of his people and the princesses thereof, for you have eaten up the vineyard. The spoil of the poor is in your houses. You sell the drugs that makes the poor people poorer. You're going to pay for that. There's no way out of it. The police are the least of your worries. Jail is the least of your worries. When you get a chance to get out of this life, get out of it. And after you get out, then you start to pay for the sins that you've committed. It's like going to college. You learn the book part, but after you get out of college, then you got to get in the workforce and really bust your butt and see the behaviors of the people. It's not like you learned in college because they didn't teach you how people are going to buck against you. It's like having an operation. After the operation, I was fine. It's the therapy that almost killed me. Now you got to work. Now you got to build yourself up. Not what you want to do, what you have to do. Who's teaching it that way? Who's teaching God's true glory to you? And the work that is necessary is bigger than singing. It's bigger than concerts and shouting and preaching. It's work. And I know most of these young people who play the instruments in most of your churches in Manning, they are drug addicts. You don't know that because you don't know what to look for. But I'm around places where they are. I'm Unc, big Unc. I'm not going to say nothing to them. I'm not going to tell you. I pray for them for real. And I'd be like, man, you need to ease off a little bit, bro. Ain't you got church tomorrow? Or I will leave. Let's move on. The Lord entered into judgment. You're taking everything from the poor. And that's how it'll be. The poor are now figuring their only way to make $1 is to do illegal stuff, open up illegal drug houses, illegal party houses, stealing out of other people's houses. You got so many sticks. Do you know that the majority of young people who are dying because they are stick-up kids? That they are robbing people for their drugs and their jewelry and their money, and they keep doing it until they get killed. Do you know that? Do you know that most of the people who have killed people are going to get off for self-defense once they go to court? And the whole story is revealed that this guy was constantly robbing me at gunpoint. And you know that this guy is your son? Your children are robbers and thieves? But they come home, yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. I take out the trash, ma'am. And you don't know how to look for the inconsistencies in their behavior and in what's going on. Do you know that your children who work on jobs are stone cold gang members and murderers? I'm not snitching on nobody. I ain't say no names, but this is what we are up against. I did a wedding, big wedding. And throughout the entire wedding, the bride's son was throwing up gang signs in the pictures. And I called him and I pulled him over and I said, young man, I said, man, you're putting your whole family in danger by throwing up them gang signs like that, man. Just drop your hands down, cover your hands, and I'll take the picture. Yes, sir. All right, Unc. And I took the pictures. But they're Stonebound gang members. Let's move on. 15. What mean ye that ye beat my people to pieces and grind the faces of the poor, saith the Lord of hosts? What do you mean by that? But it's true. Satan has beat us to pieces, and he has grind us down to nothing. We're useless. We are living on a prayer. That's what we're doing. And once God appears to answer the prayers, you know what we do? We go back to our normal self. So the only comfortable place for you, most of our children come to church drunk, come to church with weed on their clothes, go outside in the parking lot and smoke a cigarette. They cannot function. So when you say pray for our children, what is the prayer? There must be specifics. I'm almost done. The daughters of Zion, and then we're going to close. I'm going to read this in its entirety and maybe stop one time. We are at 52 minutes, so I got to read it in its entirety. I'm probably going to stop just one time. Go read it for yourself, Isaiah 3, and look at the people around you as you read. The circumstances, the situations, political, street, business, the daughters of Zion. Read from 16 to 26. Moreover, the Lord saith, this, what was said at the first part was for the men. This is for the women. Listen. Moreover, the Lord said, and this applies to you, accept it. Try not to get angry at me. Because when I read what God says that applies to me, I get afraid because I know I have to change. Moreover, the Lord saith, because the daughters of Zion are haughty and walk with stretched forth necks and wanton eyes, them lashes, you know how you do. Because you and walking and mincing as they go and making a tinkling with their feet, click, clack, click, look at my behind, click, clack, because God says, because you are doing this, therefore the Lord will smite a scab the crown of the head of the daughters of Zion, and the Lord will discover their secret parts. Those things that you use to entice men with, the eyes, the breast, the vagina, those of you who think that you are with one man bringing home disease to your vagina, and now you got diseases that you are now impure when you thought you were pure. Remember the commentary I did about AIDS and the woman who was a virgin and messed with a pastor, and the pastor spread AIDS to her in Colombia, and I did the interview with on my YouTube channel. The young lady who was pregnant and didn't find out that she had AIDS until she started to bleed, and they told her she had it. Some of us coming up with all of these, what do you call it, HPV and all these other diseases from men. This is predicted in the book. Therefore, the Lord will smite a scab, the crown of the head of the daughters of Zion, and the Lord will discover their secret parts. In that day, the Lord will take away the bravery of their tinkling ornaments about their feet, and their calls and their round tires like the moon. Round, like the moon. The chains and the bracelets and the mufflers. He's going to take it all away. The bonnets, it actually says bonnets. The bonnets and the ornaments of the leg, the headbands, and the tablets and the earrings, the rings, and the nose jewels. It's in the book. The changeable suits of apparel and the mantles and the wimples and the crisping pins, the glasses, fine linen, and the hoods and the veils. It shall come to pass that instead of sweet smell, there shall be stink. Think about that, women. Stink. And instead of a girdle, a rent. And instead of well-set hair, baldness. Instead of a nice shaped woman, you just belly just hang over. Breasts, if you take your top off, they down. And those of you who got the BBLs, Lord have mercy, the stench. All of the things that you were not satisfied with God for providing are going to turn against you. Most of our women are bald headed under all of those wigs. Got very little. I'm not talking about women who took chemotherapy or have alopecia or something where they. I'm talking about women who are healthy, who have worn so many wigs and extensions and colors and dyes that they're bald headed. Young people. In closing. And instead of a stomacher, a girdle of sackcloth. A stomacher is something that is like a designer piece that comes from the breast down to the stomach, but it covers the shame of a woman when she has on a certain kind of dress. But instead of that, now we're wearing sackcloths. I saw a young lady 2 weeks ago that literally had a bandana tied around her breast in a little knot in the back. And I said something about it, and she looked at me like she wanted to kill me. But nakedness is the order of the day. In closing, thy men shall fall by the sword, the gun violence, and thy mighty in the war. And her gates shall lament and mourn, and she being desolate shall sit upon the ground. We are at the point of complete death. But it looks like we are partying to death, like we're having the best time. 5:50, I'm 58 minutes in. I thank you all for tuning in. I wanted to put that out there. I gotta say it. My friend, cousin Ruby Johnson, thank you so much. Tyrone, my man, I gotta say it. This is serious business. Check out my man Tyrone Baxter. He and I used to run the streets together for a while. When he's talking, listen to him. Dale Castro Powell, when he's talking, listen to him. He lost a son. This is serious business. In closing, I am running for a seat in the school system in Clarendon County. I am running under a transparency campaign. People purpose, and progress. I want to hear what you all think should be done in the school system under the title of uh, a member of the school board and under the titles and laws that we are allowed to make changes. I want to hear black, white, red, brown, yellow, gay, straight. I want to hear what you all think could be done. I am running on the platform of purpose, progress, people, purpose, and progress. And if you allot me, by God's permission, 3 years to learn the school board, and if in that 3 years you say, well, he's not doing what, then vote me out. But we must make a progressive change, and we must use people who understand people. We must use people whose heart is in it and who are transparent and are able to tell you everything that is going on. Not those people who pretend to listen and go on and do what they had planned anyway. I'm not throwing any negative disparagement against anyone. I'm telling you to look at what has been done and what will be done. And I'm telling you, in closing, what God has said to me, that if we're not careful, this school year will be one of the most bloodiest, damaging school years to our county than there ever was before. Did you know that Title IX almost made it possible for girls and boys to use the same rest? They were having these meetings amongst their private selves and not letting the community know. But look it up for yourself. Title IX in Clarendon County, I think it's on hold for right now, but it is in the law and it will be implemented if someone can't find a loophole in it. That our young girls will be in the bathroom with rapists and bullies, using the same bathroom, peeking through the stall to look at your girl use the bathroom. Yeah. We want to change some of those things. I believe, as another school person running for a school board said in another county, that cameras in the classroom, if it is possible, should be brought up and implemented. That way we can keep an eye on the students, an eye on the teachers. If any conflict occurs, there's cameras down the hall, cameras throughout the school, so that if there is violence, we will know who did it, who conducted it, who to go after, since nobody wants to tell. I believe the school system should get back to teachers being able to teach in an environment that is teachable. As they begin to take the digital devices from our children, that's going to be a problem. They're going to begin to take away the e-cigarettes, the marijuana, that's going to be a problem. We have to prepare for these things. Our children are sick, and they were led into sickness by our negligence. So we must now take responsibility, or else what I've read to you and then some, because we didn't even get to Revelations yet, is what we will have to deal with. Thank you all for tuning in. Jamil Salib Zamir, Manning, South Carolina. I will be putting up things where you can help to donate to my campaign. I have to get a lot of campaign signage done. I have to get a lot of other campaign material done. I won't be having all these big signs and all that all over the place. I want to talk directly to you all. And I want to listen to what you have to say. And I want to look into the guidelines of a school board member and let you know what we're capable of changing. And I will keep that transparent, my promise to you. Anything that I can reveal to you when there is a meeting, what we talk about, what we decide, those things I will be able to offer you, and those things are not being offered. The people in those positions, I believe, have lost touch. I believe they are qualified. I believe they're intelligent people. But if you're qualified to be a preacher, but you're not doing the preaching that is necessary to get the children and the wayward people to listen and follow the path of truth, then what good are you? If you are qualified to be in the system, a councilman, school board member, or anything, but you're not able to get parents and students to believe in what you're trying to do, then what good are you? 3 years. I need your help. All of you that call me uncle, brother, friend, I need your help. We got to get in there. The little people. Because the little people are forgotten. And this become an upper echelon game. And the little people are dying. The little people are being taken advantage of. And I would like to change that. I give you my word. 30 years I've been doing this. 30 years with the community of concerned citizens and working throughout the community. Thank you all for tuning in. This is Jamil Salib Zamir, Manning, South Carolina.